So I have pushed the live button on Facebook so we get an opportunity to get everything working the way it's supposed to just a few minutes before our official kickoff of the day. We're going to cover over the course of the next 60 minutes the kind of information that I fully believe makes you money, the kind of information that gets you motivated, and the kind of information that helps you get out the door and close the week on a positive and a productive manner. Obviously, our core agent partners are live on Free Conference Call HD listening in. Many of you across social media take the time to watch and listen throughout the course of the week. But if you're joining us live today, I got a special request. Before we get this thing kicked off, I want to make sure that you get the chance to comment, to tell us what you like about what we're talking about, to engage in the conversation, to let us know what other topics you'd like us to talk about. So we are live across Facebook, YouTube, Free Conference Call HD, and for those of you with a StreamYard link, those of you that can get into our StreamYard for today's conversation, you also have the opportunity to chat, engage, and interact with the conversation. Before I start on script and on track with today's conversation, or today's training that is, I want to remind you, we're on StreamYard for you. We're on StreamYard for a reason, and we're on StreamYard in addition to Free Conference Call HD and across social media, so that if you have a StreamYard link or on social media, you can comment and engage in the conversation. We want you to be a part of what we're talking about on a Friday. We want you to interact. We want you to be included. We want you to get excited about the community aspect of this agency and this conversation. And on that note, it is officially 9 a.m. and we're going to get this thing started. There we go. For those of you on Free Conference Call HD, I appreciate you being here. And that likely means that you're ready to get out the door and get into the field at 9:30. Those of you that are joining us on StreamYard, as I had already said, drop a comment, engage in the conversation. We want you to be included. And again, as I've already said, those of you watching on social media live right now on YouTube, or any of our channels, feel free to engage in that conversation by dropping a comment today. So good morning and welcome into November. Obviously, it's November. Obviously, yesterday was Halloween, and that's why today's conversation in the back half of our training is going to be sort of Halloween themed. Welcome to another Dynamic Friday together. And if you haven't looked at the calendar yet, I think if somebody asked me what one of my hobbies were, it would be looking at the calendar, right? You used to me talking about it. If you look at the calendar right now on your Google calendar or your Apple calendar or your printed calendar, you would notice that there are only 8 Fridays left in this calendar year. I'm not counting the last Friday of the year. I want you to be able to enjoy that time with your friends, family, or yourself, whoever is important to you. I want you to work so hard until then, we don't have to worry about it. I also sort of included Black Friday. I don't know if we're going to be on with you pre-recorded or take the day off, but realistically, this year is coming to a close very rapidly. And why do I mention that constantly? Because I think it's important for you to take notes and take observational awareness of where you are throughout the course of the year. I don't want you to be one of those people who looks up at their business, looks into their bank account, and one day says to themselves, where has the last week gone? Where has the last month gone? Where has the last year in my business gone? I don't want you to be one of those people. I want you to be fully aware of what's happening and when it is, so that you can be engaged in the progress and development of your career. Today, in this conversation and this content and in this Dynamic Friday, we're going to get back into the roots of what works. We're going to engage in a positive, uplifting, and motivational Q&A about production over the course of the last week. We're going to unpack interview style, what Adam did and why he did it and what you can do. We're going to get into the conversation as well about Medicare. Adam wrote his first Medicare app this week. There are many of you on this call that should be doing the same darn thing. And there are many of you across the industry right now who are downright terrified because there is probably the biggest disruption in the Medicare space I've seen in the years I've been doing it. Not only are plan changes rampant, not only are benefits significantly different, but there are carriers no longer paying compensation on many different plans throughout the country. So we're going to talk about how that adversity is actually an opportunity and how Adam writing his first piece of Medicare business this week is another sign of something you should be doing. You guys watched it 2 years ago when Ricky got into the field, wrote enough Medicare to take himself to Tokyo. Does anyone remember that? You're watching somebody else do it now that isn't me. And I want to ask you, who is going to be next? So we're going to talk about, even though there's a bunch of adversity and changes in Medicare, how that Medicare situation is actually an opportunity for you to continue to grow your business. But today we're also going to talk about the biggest lessons learned, sticking to what works, staying the course no matter the storm, and recognizing the importance of making that short-term sacrifice and long-term gain. And that's one of the biggest difficulties that a lot of agents face, not only in business, but in life itself. Because once your business day is over, once you're at home and out of the field, you hang up the phone and you engage in the real world around you. Delayed gratification can be such a challenge. Delayed gratification comes from succeeding and then not spending everything that you made, but understanding the key parts of this, that you could stay the course no matter the storm, make that short-term sacrifice, recognizing that it absolutely unlocks long-term gain if you refuse to quit. One other quick note before we get into Adam's interview for the middle half of today's conversation. For our core agency partners, those of you on Free Conference Call HD, those of you in our agency in some form or fashion, don't forget, we're running a contest, an incentive, whatever word you want to use, this week and next. It's our World Series incentive. Unfortunately, the World Series is already over. Unfortunately, the Dodgers won. Sorry, Nick Frumpkin. But we're still giving away money. The World Series incentive week 1 concludes at 5 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. That means if you have any interest in winning the money, if you have any interest in your production counting towards that contest, I need you to submit your business to me, who you wrote, their names, all that basic information by Saturday at 5 p.m. so that we can verify it, so that we can announce the winner on Monday, and that we can get ready for week 2 of that incentive. Remember, there's a life production aspect, there's a Medicare production aspect, and anybody can really win an opportunity to get money or money for leads and continue to grow their business. So on that note, I'm going to bring Adam on. Hopefully, I've got my audio settings working properly, because normally at this point, I get a bunch of background noise. Adam, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear myself echoing. I guess that's just part of my life story, isn't it? Now, Adam, I've got a couple really good practical and positive questions to throw your way. Let's try to clear up this audio issue briefly, and then we can engage in the questions. I've got my mic on mic and my speakers on my headphones, so I'm not quite sure why we're echoing, but let's just do it together. I wanted to start off first by asking, what are some creative ways to look for sales opportunities over the course of your week? Because I think a lot of times agents especially struggle to get out of a slump because they're waiting for opportunities to land in their lap or to dial their phone or to send them a letter instead of creating opportunities to be successful. So let's talk about first, as I put myself on mute, creating versus waiting for opportunities.
Well, one thing, can everybody hear me? I can't tell if it's working on StreamYard or not. But one thing, like what you said, sometimes we just need to do what we can to find some sales. If that means maybe going back to our existing policy holders. And that's one thing that I did this week was made sure that the appointments that started calling a lot of my existing policy holders. Just a lot of, I'd say the last 2-3 weeks at least, boy, I'd really been kind of slumping a little bit and just really didn't really change anything up. Just kind of, I don't know. I don't know what's going on, just a little bit more difficult to make a sale. And, it's not like I'm not good out there. I put up a lot of premium. So, I think sometimes when you're in a slump, you do need to find ways to generate those sales. And that's kind of like what I did yesterday. I think I told you I wrote 5,000 in premium yesterday, and that wasn't off of any leads. That was off of policy holders and just things like that. So there's business there if you can find it. If you're a new agent, it might be a little bit more difficult if you don't have that book of business that you can kind of lean on to find those sales. But there's other ways to do it. You know, I would recommend for those of you to go back and watch or listen to a prior podcast where we talk about just the different opportunities that are out there when it comes to generating business. You know, not just working leads, knocking on doors around the leads. Even we talk about like the senior centers and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of just different ones that we came up with that kind of a combination of myself and some other people. But definitely, I would recommend to go back and and watch or listen to one of those prior podcasts that kind of gets into that, because it'll definitely help you.
Yeah, I think it's critical to remember that the first 2 years is an absolute grind in your business. And it's doing those kind of extra activities that earn you the opportunity that years into your business, you could sneeze and produce 5K of premium from people that already know you and trust you. It's doing the senior centers. And I was working with an agent doing a ride along, and I was telling him in Baltimore, all of the senior center opportunities, it's obscene. Like if I was brand new to the business, I had a 5-day work week and I needed every dollar to pay every bill. I would be in every one of these buildings every Friday for at least the morning time, giving a presentation, offering some pizza, cookie, crackers, coffee, and getting some grassroots business. For Medicare agents, if you've got a city like that, get out of your fear box and get into these buildings and get that grassroots opportunity so that when you get to the point like Adam's, you can build back that confidence by just getting in front of people who already know you and trust you. And I think that's one of the biggest opportunities refusing to give up gives you. Now, Adam, you asked a question that I guarantee everybody is curious about, because you're not the only person that asked that question. You sent me a question last night at 9 o'clock at night, which proves that 6-figure or higher earners work late and start early. You asked me, what's up with these Medicare Advantage commissions no longer, or Medicare Advantage plans no longer paying commission? Is it a good time to get into Medicare? Now, as I had opened with this morning, obviously there's a ton of significant plan changes, plans exiting the market, and now there's plans not paying commissions. But in these type of situations, just like in final expense, when the adversity level increases, the opportunity for success increases as well. Adam, I would kind of describe this moment in Medicare kind of like 2020 in final expense, where all of us were sort of forced out of the field. Many of us were behind a desk trying to will into existence our careers. And people like yourself made it work. So do you remember those moments in 2020 where you had to get creative, work harder, and dig deeper, but can kind of look back on it and say it made you better?
Yeah, kind of goes back to the same thing, trying to figure out ways to generate sales. I mean, it was funny because this morning I was scrolling through Facebook, and I forget one of the different groups out there. I saw a post. Someone said, I guess I'm going to have to go back out in the hood and sell final expense. And I'm just thinking that's not a bad thing. People all over the place need our help. And it was just so funny how foreign some people are to final expense. Someone else had commented, really, people in the hood have money for final expense? Well, it's like, where have you been? I mean, I'd say 90% of the business I write is in the hood. So, I mean, but anyways, yeah, I mean, this whole Medicare deal, I don't quite understand it because I'm so new to Medicare, but to me, I guess, I don't know, it would almost feel like a slap in the face to me if I was one who really had been dedicated to writing a lot of business with the different carriers that just suddenly decide that they don't want to pay commissions anymore. I mean, to me, that's just, to me, it just, I don't know, it puts a bad taste in my mouth. It makes me think, like, how much does that carrier care about their people? They
Yeah,
care
the
about their
interesting part
agents.
about that is that there's so much competition in this marketplace. I think we sometimes forget because we're so often competing against ourselves or competing against fake Facebook posts that people make about their income, that these carriers are also in competition with themselves. There's a final expense carrier that's been on the market for as long as I've been in the business, that's releasing a new product next week with lower rates to compete with other carriers. What's going to happen in the Medicare space is, while Anthem and Aetna make contractions, while WellCare does what WellCare is going to do, other carriers are going to step up and say, I want the business. United Healthcare, the regional players, Cigna, those kind of companies are going to say, look at this gap in the business available. I'm going to insert myself in that block of business. So I'm excited to see what we do and what opportunities come to us. Because like you're watching on these social media groups, there people are afraid and worried about having to actually work. And agents like ours are used to working. Now, Adam, for the sake of those listening in who haven't started in Medicare yet, which just boggles my mind, you had your first enrollment this week and it was late in the day, which is the biggest opportunity to make money. You called me from the home, which is me fulfilling my responsibility. And I pulled over in front of Camden Yards for all you baseball fans, waved off security as they walked up to me, and we walked through the situation together. So can you share some exciting, positive insights on your first enrollment with Medicare?
Yeah, first off, thank you, Chris, for being able to assist me with that because I am still pretty foreign to the whole Medicare Advantage deal. Yeah, I went through the AHIP and all that other stuff, but um, that to me, that's nothing. I mean, it's one thing to go through and take a bunch of tests and all that stuff, but when it gets down to it and you are actually sitting there with somebody and yeah, I mean, I didn't really know what I was doing. I knew Sunfire. I played around with it a little bit, but I mean, still kind of learning everything. So I definitely appreciate you being available to be able to kind of walk me through that situation. The lady, she was dual eligible, where she was Medicare and Medicaid, and like we pretty much just told the lady like not a whole lot, nothing really changes with the way you're currently set up, but there's going to be some additional benefits now, some things that you're entitled to. This lady was on a fixed income, and I was able to get her that deal where she's got like another $125 a month coming to her now that she can use for groceries or over the counter medications and just little things like that. I mean, that really just kind of sold it right there. I mean, who wouldn't want an extra $125 a month for nothing? So
Exactly. And the interesting part about that is what you said is what I've heard Shannon say, is what I've heard Ricky say, is what I've heard other agents say, is it was a moral victory in the day more than anything else. The day hadn't been going the way you planned. The week hadn't been going the way you wanted. The month of October was kind of a challenge for you, and thank God it's over in a lot of senses, mentally speaking. But it was a moral victory. And I want to hear you kind of share with the social media audience and our agency how that one little win was bigger than walking away empty-handed from another day in final expense.
yeah, I mean, to be honest, I mean, I still kind of went home, yeah, I felt all right in that one Medicare app, but I still kind of went home feeling a little defeated. Uh, last, yeah, like you said, pretty much the whole month. I don't know, just my production. I haven't changed anything. I'm still out in the field grinding every day that I'm usually out in the field. But it was a tough month. Didn't write a lot of business. And so, but yeah, one thing, yeah, that one sale, to me, I don't know, something happens when I make a sale where my mind kind of starts moving again, and thinking about other opportunities, which really probably led to the sales that I made yesterday. And then, I even this morning, I'm laying in bed and I'm going through the notebook on my phone and I'm making notes and just brainstorming of people that I know I can go back on today to have a good chance of maybe making a sale. So whether that's like a lapsed policy holder or maybe just a couple follow-ups that I didn't write, that like I had one was at Tuesday that seemed like a sure sale. And the lady's like, well, my daughter, she's going to be over in a little bit, she said, and she's got like all my bank information. So come back like a little after 5 o'clock. And I came back after 5 and nobody was there. So I don't know if the daughter just picked her up and they went out to dinner or something and she just forgot. And then, you can't get people on the phone, but I'll go back and door knock that one. That'll be like my last stop today. I usually don't go out on Fridays, but just decided, just kind of the way my month went. Well, heck, I still got I still got a mortgage and other bills, and heck, I need to go make some more money. So I'm
Exactly.
going
And
to
I
go out
think
today and do what I can to. And I bet you, my goal was 8,000 for the week. I hit that 5,000 yesterday, and I'm going to plan on writing 3,000 a day to hit that 8,000.
And you can absolutely do it when you're willing to do a little bit extra to get out of a slump. Like I could imagine in baseball, for example, there's times where guys have to get demoted to AAA, or guys have to take extra batting practice, or guys have to come in sooner or stay after the game because they know if they just keep giving themselves enough opportunity and, like you said, find that sale that reminds them and turns that brain back on, get that hit back into the field, it'll get them back on track pretty quickly. You wrote a Transamerica Express yesterday, and I want to talk about that product. Cheers to Transamerica, because immediate solutions is not really the solution anymore. Immediate solutions isn't designed for quick pay and an instant decision, and it has its place in the market. No hate against it, but I really want to encourage folks to continue to look into, write, and utilize Transamerica Express. So talk about when the opportunity you had yesterday to use it.
Yeah, I really I kind of lean on that and the American Amicable lately. I'd say those are like the two that I try to focus on. Um, well, I'll be honest, I get paid the most money when I write those companies, so or those products. So that's one focus, and just the value. I've always been about the value, and that's something that the American Amicable and the Transamerica both have, is that the Everest Funeral Concierge Service. The Transamerica Express has it, and the process is easy. The application is super easy. Honestly, I think it's probably, I bet it's, I don't know. I kind of feel like it's probably the easiest e-app out there now, in my opinion. I mean, if you know how to read and click buttons, you should be able to complete one. It's
Oh, God.
it really isn't that difficult.
No.
And you do get, and I like that you get the decision at the end. And it
Yeah,
seems like the underwriting is you know, I guess what I tell clients is that they look at the big, like the whole picture. They're not going to single you out for one little thing, but they look at like the big picture. And a lot of people that maybe would go graded somewhere else, I've been able to get them first day on that express plan.
awesome. Now, in our final 5 minutes before we move into our big long form conversation, before we send folks out into the field, before we hang up on Free Conference Call HD and go exclusively in person, what are some practical tips you can share with the viewing audience and core agency partners on keeping control of the conversation? Because I think it's so important, and I can see situations where agents lose control of the conversation and other things come up in the conversation that have nothing to do with what you're there to sell. So, what kind of practical tips can you give an agent to control the conversation from the moment that they take that live transfer, the moment they knock on the door, to the moment that says that situation is concluded?
I honestly just I think it's very important to have a set presentation. Like if you're just being conversational with people and you don't have a whole lot of structure, then the conversation could really kind of drift off, and then you're there for 3 hours. And time is money. I mean, nobody wants to be on an appointment for 3 hours. So yesterday, actually, the one that I wrote a couple at one house, and I was actually there much longer than anticipated. I was planning on being home by 3 o'clock for trick or treating, and I got home at 5 o'clock. So sometimes that happens, but for the most part, yeah, I think by having a presentation and kind of going through with that, if they kind of drift off, at least you can kind of get right back on point with having that presentation, and yeah, you just kind of bring it back to where you need to be. Uh, Sometimes you just maybe need to take charge a little bit, and just say, that's a great point. Whatever they're talking about, let me get back to what we're talking about here. Uh, Sometimes, if you feel like you're wasting your time and you're just sitting with someone that just won't shut up, you just need to get up and walk out.
Yeah,
I've
you know
done
what
it.
that's called? That's called the takeaway close, where you literally begin packing your belongings to leave. And if they're serious, Adam, I'm sure you've seen it. The person's like, whoa, 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 wait, I actually want this
Yeah.
insurance. Oh, okay. All right. I really thought you didn't, and I wasn't going to waste your time or mine. But the takeaway close gives you back the power and proves that you're there to do business and not just make some kind of social visit.
Oh yeah, yeah. Can you sit down with the guy that just wants to tell you all about World War II and everything else. And that's great. I love our veterans and everything else, but at the end of the day, like I said, time is money, and it's great to hear about your story, but in the end, I got to bring it back to what we're there to discuss, and do what I can to get in and out of there within 45 minutes to an hour. So,
Oh,
but yeah, like I said, if they don't seem like a good candidate and you're not getting anywhere with them and they just won't shut up, I've done it. I put my iPad in my case and I just stand up, and you just kind of slowly drift to the door.
I had two of those on Wednesday, I think it was. One of them, I know it was a presentation I couldn't close, but at some point I was done trying to like beat water out of a stone. And the other, the conversation just never started. And I could tell it was going nowhere. I could tell the only place it was going to make me frustrated. And I just simply got up and I walked away. And sometimes they're like, well, wait a second, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm leaving. That there's nothing we can do here. And I think that's okay. I think sometimes you just have to mentally walk out of the presentation, physically walk out, and walk into a better situation. Lastly, in our final 60 seconds before switching focus, although you didn't get a ton of premium out of the leads, it doesn't mean you won't find them next week. You did something to me on Tuesday that I greatly appreciate. You recognized that you needed more opportunity and more people to see, and you said, send me 20 more of my leads. And you doubled down on this week. And I want you to share some thoughts with the group about when necessary to get out of a rut or to get in front of more people, how you decided to double down on your investment and double the amount of leads you purchased.
Well, yeah, why not? Like I said, heck, I need to make money. So the best way to do that is to have more people to see. So, you had texted me that there were quite a few leads that had come in inventory, and I was close to ordering some Facebook leads, but decided, you already had them in inventory, so why don't I just take those? They're readily available, and just add them into the mix. So, yeah, I mean, I talk about how you got to bet on yourself, and to me, the only gamble is the wager that you're putting into your leads. So, like you said, if anything, sometimes maybe you got to double down and see what happens. And yeah, I mean, I know I still got business there to write. I have an appointment in about an hour and a half with a guy that's a lead that actually I went to yesterday. It was an appointment. He wasn't home. I called while I was there, and he was like, "Oh, I thought they set that up for next week." I couldn't really understand him on the phone or something. He's like, "That was about that burial insurance, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." What they want to say burial insurance. Well, yeah, that's what it's about. So, so he's like, "Well, why don't you just come back tomorrow morning and we can talk about it then?" So as long as he's there, it should be a decent one. I mean, he knows what it's about. Um, sometimes people, maybe they don't understand exactly what it's about. He knows what it's about. He knows it's about insurance. And as long as he's there, I think I got a good chance of writing that one. So, and I got plenty of others, yeah, I took 40 leads this week. Haven't written anything off of them yet, but I know I will. And that's my plan today is, I got a few appointments set, and then I'm just going to put a route together, and I'm going to go out there and door knock them until it gets dark out. Once it's dark, it's
Direct
time to
mail.
come home. And, but gonna do what I can. Like I said, I want to hit that 8,000. I don't throw a goal out there like just trying to BS everybody. I throw that goal out there with the intention to hit it. So if I tell the whole group on Tuesday that I'm going to write 8,000 in premium, well, I'm going to keep going until, there's no chance left in the week to be able to do that.
Absolutely. And when you double down on yourself on direct mail, which really doesn't ever get old, I mean, the person may eventually die, but the opportunity is always there as long as you stay organized, stay in the field, and stay focused on achieving that goal. All right, we're going to switch over and go exclusively on social media and on StreamYard. I would highly encourage you to join us on StreamYard to be a part of the conversation and to comment, like, and interact with the videos when you see them so that social media shows them to other people and we continue to grow this audience and this agency together. Take care, and we are switching over right now. So I was thinking, Adam, today's conversation in the next 20 to 30 minutes is hopefully coming across loud and clear, but it's about what spooks agents out of the business. And I know we talk about it in a lot of different forms and fashions, a lot of different reasons why people fail. But while we're talking about Halloween and what spooks people out of the business, I think oftentimes what really, really scares people is success. Like, what if it actually works? Has anyone ever thought of it that way before, where you think, well, what if I fail? But what if it actually works is a whole different way to look at it. And I think sometimes agents wonder or don't think about it that way. Like they're afraid to fail, but what if it actually worked, Adam?
Yeah, I missed the beginning of that because I was switching over. I seemed like I always have audio issues. I don't know what it is when we go from the conference to just this. So I signed out and signed back on. So I didn't catch
Mhm.
what you were asking there at the beginning.
That's okay. I was saying our topic today is what spooks agents out of the business. And we often talk about why agents fail, but we're doing it with a Halloween theme today. But I think what spooks agents out of the business is sometimes they don't think to themselves, what if it actually works? Like, what if I actually go out there and make $100,000 a year? What does that really mean financially to my family? What if I actually will into existence 300 Medicare clients and I'm making 8 grand a month? What if it actually works? Had you ever think agents think about it that way?
And it's funny. I was kind of thinking about that last night, that I think that a lot of the reasons why agents fail are some of the same reasons why other agents succeed. Yeah, the things that agents are afraid to do is what's holding them back and what kind of gets them in and out of the business. Where those that are not afraid uh, and they face those fears and they just get out there and they work. Yeah, the same things that scared the other person away are the reasons why the other person is successful. So, maybe not all of them, but I think a good portion of the reasons why. So,
Absolutely. Now, I think some of the things that spook agents out of the business, I think has a lot to do with freedom. Freedom of the fact that you're not reporting to an office. There's no one looking over your shoulder. There's no one really checking to see what happens. It's all really on you. And I think
mhm.
yesterday is the perfect example. It's Halloween. A lot of us in the agency have young kids and family obligations and a life outside of door knocking and running appointments. And many of our core agent partners were in the field for, I don't know, 10 to 2, 10 to 3, 10 to 4, 10 to 5. They put first things first, but they didn't let the fact that there was a family obligation in the evening spook them out of the field. So talk about that balance that you had to strike yesterday, because you had appointments to run and money to make, but you didn't make it home a little bit sooner than normal.
Yeah, I called you on my way home. I can't remember for something, but I know we were talking for a few minutes. I think you were getting your kids ready for trick or treating at the time. And yeah, my plan yesterday, I had a 12:30 appointment, and then that was going to be pretty much it. I got to that appointment a little bit late, and where it was at, parking was kind of difficult. And so just, it was a little bit of a journey to get there and to get out of there. And I was like right outside of downtown Chicago. Traffic sucked. Uh, Trick or treating started at 3 o'clock, and it was a little after 3 o'clock by the time I got out of this appointment. And so, but I mean, heck, I mean, what I think I wrote like 3,600 in premium. So so it's a weighing game. Do I want to like cut this appointment off and not write 3,600 in premium to get home in time for trick or treating, or would I rather make that money to pay my mortgage? So uh so so yeah, I mean it's a weighing game. There's a little bit of sacrifice there, but in the end, I mean, heck, I mean, I got to do what it's going to be best for my family. And even though I missed a couple hours of trick or treating, I was still able to get back in time to. I mean, the kids had already gone around half the neighborhood. By the time I got home, I was at least able to kind of go do the other half with them, and they wanted me there, but I think they understand too. Heck, if Dad's got to work, he's got to work. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. Let's talk about real quick too, the concept of delayed gratification, because what spooks agents out of the business oftentimes is poor financial management and poor short-term decision making. They make a lot of money. They made more than they made before. They've got more than they've ever had in their account, and then they're nowhere to be found. What's your thoughts and beliefs when it comes to short-term sacrifice, long-term gain, and delayed gratification?
Well, I think it's almost small-minded thinking if someone gets comfortable because they had a couple good days and they made some money. Because, look at the month I had. Like I said, production was down. Didn't write nearly as much as I usually write. Um, you just gotta keep going. You can't get comfortable. You get comfortable, and then you have a bad month, and then you're scraping. So, yeah, you definitely. I don't know. Yeah, you need to, like I said, you just gotta have to keep going. You can't slow down, and you got to look at the big picture and focus on the long term, and not just not just the one sale at a time sort of mentality.
Yeah, I remember that one of the legendary Ben Bowman stories is an opportunity he shared to buy something super expensive. I think it was a watch. And then a bunch of stuff went wrong and afterwards, and he always shares the story and says if he had purchased this watch, he wouldn't have survived the next disruption in his business. And he's glad that he delayed that purchase and that gratification for the long-term gain it provided, his entire company and his family. So I think it's important that agents not get spooked out of the business because of poor financial planning or poor decision making, and stay focused on the long-term goal that they're trying to achieve. You had a bad week or a bad month. That month is thankfully freaking over. If you had such a short-term focus on things at that point, you'd have pulled the plug and started selling IULs in your underwear, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Again, like I said, you just kind of have to keep going, and all it takes is that one day to just totally turn things around. Going from writing nothing the first 2 days I was out in the field this week to writing 5,000 yesterday, kind of, like I said, motivated me to get up and get dressed and go back out and do it again today, where usually I don't go out on Fridays. So, but you got to do what you got to do. And like I said, I got all these leads. I might as well go out and work them.
Mhm.
Usually I spend my Fridays focusing on just the agency and keeping up with agents and everything else. But again, I got these leads. I might as well go out and work them. So that's what I'm going to do today.
Well
Some
said.
other things though, Chris, too, I think about when it comes to things that maybe agents fear in the business. I think at least when it comes to final expense, I think people fear just kind of the things that they hear about final expense, like that
Mhm.
it's not good, persistent business, and that you got to deal with a lot of chargebacks. And uh, sometimes those are things too, I think, that maybe spook agents out of the business. Uh, they focus too much on those sort of things. And, I'm a big believer, the more you focus on stuff, those are the sort of things that are going to come back to you. So if you're focusing on chargebacks, you're probably going to you're probably going to be dealing with a lot of chargebacks. You
Yeah.
focus on writing business, well, you're going to have a lot of more business coming in. But to me, I don't feel like those are things that should scare agents. 21 years now, almost 22 into the business. My persistency has always been over 80%. That's like the industry standard, I guess you'd say. 80%. I'm usually above that, usually 85, 90%. So, so much of it just kind of has to do with how you're selling and not overselling and not putting people in policies that they can only pay one time and they can never afford a month after this. Setting draft dates properly. So, there's a lot to it. I think the reason it gets a bad rap, final expense, and the persistency is because there's too many people that give up too soon. They had that one charge back, and then they're telling the whole world about it, and now they're back to working at Target.
Yeah. I think it's important to remember too that in the bubble of social media that so many people live in, especially if you're watching this content, that means you're in the bubble high. The social media algorithms heighten negativity. It's just the reality of it. And when you're seeing that over and over again, it's playing off the fact that your mind focuses on that and then produces what it sees. So you have to remind yourself sometimes to disengage from the negativity and focus on the productivity. I think sometimes people are afraid and they're spooked into this business because they're focusing so much, like you said, on their weaknesses and they're not counterbalancing their strengths. I recognize that this week I wanted to make money, put money directly in my bank account. grow back the account that I had spent a lot of money out of. And I went back to the hood. I got a set of final expense leads that we had in inventory, and I went to work. And guess what? It was harder. It required a tougher skin. The people were meaner, but I still made plenty of money. And I think sometimes we have to recognize in our business, focusing on your strengths makes it really easy to make up for your weaknesses. Don't you think?
Yeah, most definitely. One strength of mine is door knocking. So, I mean, right there. I mean, like I said today, I have a few appointments set, but I'm going to spend a good portion of my day just door knocking those leads, knocking them out. Uh, you got to kind of go out there knowing, yeah, not everybody's going to be nice and friendly and let you in or have any idea why you're there to talk to them. But it's a numbers game. The more people you have to see, the more opportunities you have to make sales. So yeah, most definitely. Another thing too, I think people fear rejection. Rejection sucks. I mean, I got
Absolutely.
rejected a lot this month, and it sucks when you're just, you're there to help people and they need it, and you just can't push them over to moving forward. And that's what's happened to me a lot lately. Just, it's like I feel like the need is there, but just honestly, it's been more of like money issues, just running into people that just don't have anything. But yeah, they fear that rejection, and that maybe it gets to them like it's gotten to me. But again, you just got to kind of keep moving. You keep going. Sooner or later, you get into the right house, turns things all around. I think
Mhm.
so many times people just give up too soon. They have that. I remember one time, Chris, I went out with a guy, training him. We were out, I think 2 days in a row. In those 2 days, I wrote like 6,000 in premium. I got like 25 referrals, and this guy was just like, wow, this is awesome. I'm going to go out there and crush it. And he went out the next day and just totally got beat up. And he's like, this isn't for me. I'm done. And it's like, yeah, not every day is going to go like that day that I had, or those 2 days that I was out with the guy. I don't know. I know people just, well, honestly, Chris, I think some of it could be too. So many of these different organizations out there that they really, really make this sound easy to people. They make it sound like you're going to make all this money overnight. You barely got to get 1 foot out of your bed in the morning to make it happen.
They're
Money's
just
just
going
going
to
to be
call you. They're all
flowing.
just going to
It's going
call
to
you
be
and hand
falling
you
off
their
the trees
checks.
outside. What's that?
They're just going to call you and start handing you their bank accounts.
Yeah, that's it. You barely have to do anything, and all of a sudden you're making $20,000 a week. I love that recruiting call a couple of weeks ago, talking to this agent. Everything sounds good, Adam, but I talked to this other place. They said within a month I'd be making $20,000 a week, and it's like, are you that gullible? Because if you're that gullible, well, go ahead. Go work for
Yeah.
them.
Well, let's talk about another one too. I mean, this is the perfect example. We're talking about what spooks agents out of the business, and what a lot of times they suffer from is failure to launch. So we
Yeah.
streamlined the process. Like, we made this so simple. You can't not do it. Oh, maybe somebody can't. We streamlined the onboarding process to 1 or 2 companies right away. Go out there and sell one policy, plug into all the training, spend an hour of private training with us, which we could probably sell for thousands of dollars, in all honesty. And we had an agent recently who suffered from failure to launch because they wanted to just get ready to get ready to get ready to get ready. They were afraid to just start and see what happens. So why do you think agents get so spooked in the very beginning? They never even cross the road and give themselves the opportunity.
I think it. I think for the most part, it is the fear of failure. And they just, yeah, I mean, that was the situation. The person, they wanted to make sure they had everything down just right. And it's
Mhm.
like, I probably still don't have everything down just right.
Oh,
If I did, I'd be making a sale in every house. I wouldn't be
yeah,
walking out without a sale in those houses that I get rejected on. I'm not perfect.
yeah, and
The best
you
way to
don't have it
learn
all
this
down.
business is just to get out there and do it. And,
Mhm.
when I first got in the business, I had one guy took me out like 1 or 2 days out in the field, door knocking leads. And that was it. From there, I was on my own, and I was not involved with like what we have going on, Chris, where we really spend a lot of time and have good conversations with a good group of agents to kind of stay on track. Yeah, my dad was in the business, so we communicated quite a bit back in the day, and we still do. But yeah, I learned this business from just going out and doing it, figuring out
Hmm.
what worked, figuring out what didn't. Getting doors slammed in my face and going back to my car and thinking, well, what could I have done differently so next time I don't get a door slammed in my face?
Yeah.
This really is not rocket science.
No.
Uh, but you got to be able to just get up and get out and do it. And I think that's the hardest part. People, and I think it's just I don't know if it is, I think it is that fear of failure. But they're going to fail out of business if they don't get started.
Yeah. And I think especially when we're trying to get somebody onboarded and into the field, we really do expect them to fail 9 times out of 10, 14 times out of 15, 18 out of 20. And all we want them to see is the proof that they can do it by selling one policy to someone that's not their grandmother or their mom. That's it. Just prove to yourself you can do it once. And if you can do something once, you can do it twice. If you can do it twice, you can do it 4 times, and so on and so forth. But we expect you to fail. We expect you, as a successful agent, to fail at times and to keep going and refuse to give up. But failure is to be expected. It's what you do after that that really leads you to where you're trying to go or puts you off the path, right?
For sure. There's a couple others here, Chris, that I put down that I wanted to run through with you. Some things
Awesome.
that honestly people don't talk about enough. Um, a lot of people, I think, are spooked out of the business because they're afraid to work some of the areas that we work when
Good
we're
one.
out in the field. People don't talk about that enough. We're working low income areas. Like very seldom are we working on the nice side of town. So I think sometimes that spooks people out of the business. They're uncomfortable in environments that they're not used to being in. And I mean, I've been working the worst parts of Chicago since I was 21 years old. I didn't know anything about it, but I think maybe that's what helped me was being able to get out there when I was young and just go into those areas when I don't know, maybe I had a lot less to lose back then. So, um, and now it's just like it's second nature. I like working those areas. It's to me, it's just the people that I deal with on a regular basis. I feel like the need is there. They've been through it. They know they need it. And I have zero hesitation to work. Some I guess what some people would call like some rough areas.
Yeah.
Um, it's just it's never really phased me. I kind of look as people know I'm there for a reason. They know I'm not out there trying to cause problems, but I've always told agents, if you don't feel comfortable and it doesn't feel like a good time to get out of the car, you could always go back later.
Yeah. I think you got to look at it this way. Um, Strengths and weaknesses. Again, I know my strength is the urban market because I can run 18 appointments in 2 days if things are working perfectly. Those 18 appointments will turn into 7,500 in life premium and probably about 7 MAs. And I know the rural area is nice for a break once in a while, but with the amount of time I have in the field and my personal preferences, I'm not going to see enough people in enough time, and that grades at me a little bit. I also think when we talk about areas, sometimes people talk about selling over the phone all the time. That's fine, but you got to be licensed in 10, 12, 15, 20, 25 states. You have to be able to operate a CRM, your phone, a mobile, the iPad application. You got to be very tech fluid, or you have to be willing to take time to learn it. And you have to learn the nuances of tonality and conversation and interaction because you don't have body language to help you through it. Like I can look somebody in the eye and walk them through the sale without anything but experience at this point. But over the phone, there's so much more nuance to it. You got to recognize it isn't going to be any easier. It's a different kind of hard. So I could totally agree with that area thought as well. We have a question on Facebook that I'd love to get your thoughts on. And I think this is perfect because I wrote this down to cover potentially as well. Josh asks, what are some of your tips and tricks for referrals? I know you worked your book of business this week to write over 5K of premium, but any suggestions you would give on referrals?
Uh, you know what? It's funny. Erin was just on here commenting. I think she's like the referral pro. She writes tons of business off of referrals, but uh, honestly, I probably needed to get better at referrals. I don't feel like I ask enough for referrals. I get the sale, and and so often I might I might ask a little bit, but I don't push hard enough for the referral. And maybe it's just because in my mind I already know I got someone else to go see like in 10 minutes. But when I usually just pretty much put it to the person as yeah, I tell them, you might wonder how I get paid. I do this to kind of solidify the sale too. I say, you might wonder how I get paid. Well, I get paid a couple ways. I get paid a commission by you keeping this policy in force. So I hope you're serious about your decision today. And I know you are, because I know you need this. I also get paid by you giving me names of 5 people that maybe not necessarily need a policy, but will at least like to hear about what we're talking about. And then they think I'm getting paid just to get a few names. And so sometimes that works. It's kind of like in my mind, by going that route with it, I just help them with something that they knew they needed and they're happy. And now they might be more willing to help me if they feel like I'm going to get something out of it rather than just giving me names. If they feel like I'm actually going to get something out of it, they may be more willing to help me. So that's why I kind of go that route with it. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I'll be honest. Yeah, I think I think I'd like to get Erin on one of our Fridays, Chris,
I think she should come on next
have her
Friday.
on.
I
But
think she should.
yeah, maybe if she's available, that'd be awesome because I think she's one of the better ones I know at getting referrals, and I think probably me and you could also learn a little bit from her when it comes
Yeah,
to the referrals.
I do have 3 methods that I've worked on that I think are worth discussing. One is mailing letters. I know during COVID, I was trying to drum up business any place I could find it. Old business, Pakistani live transfers, mailing letters to clients. And mailing letters is very time consuming and offered me a very low return. I mailed probably 200 letters to existing clients during that 1 month I was selling over the phone. And I got 1 callback, and it was a lay down sale. The lady's like, absolutely, I'd like to purchase more insurance. And I wrote it right there. It was very easy. Text messages, which we've proven multiple times that works really, really well, especially when you can kind of theme it properly. Last holiday season, I was approaching my final day in the field for the year. Didn't have a ton of appointments, was really focused on like Christmas, the trip I was about to go on, the engagement I was planning in the background. Took a lot of work, but I wanted to make one last day in the field profitable. Put together a text message, something about an annual review, and I'll find the text and I'll post it later. But I texted about 40 clients. I got 2 answers, and I wrote about 2,000 in AP from a parking lot from a text message. Still on the books. It was an existing client that wanted more coverage. So I just texted individually, not group texted, good working relationship clients, and drummed up business that way. It wasn't necessarily a referral, but it was book of business. And then drop-ins. I think when you're making contact with your clients for whatever reason, if you're not asking them for a referral, you're missing the opportunity. So I think the best thing I could teach about referrals is just asking more often. I just recently got some marketing material from a carrier, and they gave us a referral sheet you can leave with the client. And we got to use it for it to be any good, but it's just the activity of it that I think would yield the results. And so many of us lead junkies are bad at asking in the first place.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, yeah, I definitely need to get better at referrals. I am a lead junkie. Doubled down this week. Worked 40 instead of 20. Had I asked for referrals more often, maybe I wouldn't need to grab another 20 leads this week. So yeah, I mean, in the end, I mean, you're walking away from a lot of business if you're not asking for referrals, and referrals are free leads. So, I mean, what the $780 I spent on another 20 leads, I would not have had to, maybe if I was a little bit better. So I need to get better at that. But I think it's important too for people to, we talk about our strengths, we talk about our weaknesses. But when we have those weaknesses, maybe those are some things that we need to to focus on a little bit to do what we can to get better.
Yeah,
And for
strengths versus
sure, I mean,
weaknesses.
that's something that I for sure need to get better at is referrals. But I bet that 90% of agents out there would say the same thing, that they're not asking for referrals often enough. And but if you don't ask, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get them.
One
A
other thing
few
that I
others.
sometimes
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
One more that I sometimes do, and then we can get into some of your other spooky
Sure.
things, is if I'm mailing a policy, for some reason, if a policy came to me and it didn't come to the client, maybe I was overzealous and clicked mail to agent. And then as soon as it came, I regretted that I clicked that button. If I have to physically mail this policy, I'm going to make sure at the least I write a note in there that says, thank you for the business. We give a cash bonus for referrals. Like anytime I'm making that touch physically by mailing the policy, and I have to spend 22 minutes there and back going to the post office and $4 to mail it, I'm going to make some effort in that policy to encourage the client to call me for referrals or to share my information.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good to, yeah. I mean, I don't like having policies mailed to me. I had a carrier, I wrote maybe 5 or 6 apps with them last month, and every single one, they sent the policy to me. And
Hey,
I
there's a
call,
referral opportunity. Draw
yeah,
up a nice letter, sign Adam Bersando it, and say cash bonus if you can put me in front of someone that I helped the same way you helped me.
hey, there you go.
Pays
And
for the postage.
we have gone back to people that we write like 30 days. I've trained guys, go back 30 days after you write the app and let the person know that they qualified for additional coverage. You pre-qualified for 35,000. I know you went with the 20,000. Did you want to take care of the rest today? And just a way to maybe have that little add-on sale. So I've done that where, a month later, maybe go back after the trust is there now. Everything I told them the first time came true.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe now they're willing to do a little bit more. But yeah, I've never really liked having a whole stack of policies to deliver because
You
I
sell
got,
so much.
yeah, I got too many other people to go see.
Yeah.
So yeah, I called the place. I'm like, what do I got to do to make sure you guys just send these policies to the policyholders? Because honestly, I don't want them stacking
Waiting.
up in my car either. Like
Yeah.
they need to get to the person. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but one other thing, Chris, one of the fears, I think some people have a fear of commission only.
That's a good one.
And, that's something. And I think honestly, I think a lot of times it's not the agent who has the fear of
Mm-hmm.
commission only, but it's the people in the background that have the fear. Like if it's a husband and a wife, let's say the husband is the one who wants this commission only career. A lot of times I think it's the spouse who's holding the person back. Because they want to see that guaranteed money. They want that, when you got bills, you got everything else, people like to have that guaranteed income. But in my opinion, you can make a heck of a lot more money on commission than any salary position where people tell you this is what you're worth. So, but I think that that's something that maybe people need to figure out ways to overcome in their homes. So their spouse or significant other kind of understands the business and understands the sort of money that you can make. Cause I just think a lot of times people, they don't understand it. The spouse doesn't really understand how it works. What do you mean? It's only commission only. Why would you want to do that?
Yeah.
But I think that spooks some agents out of the business.
Yeah. And look at it this way. I always explain it to people like this, and maybe it doesn't work because maybe, I don't know. I say to them, if you were working an hourly wage or a salary and you didn't do your job, like you just didn't show up for 2 or 3 weeks, or you did such a poor job, it was very obvious you weren't even trying, what would happen? They'd fire you, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So if you went 2 or 3 weeks and didn't do a darn thing in commission only, you just simply fire yourself. So it's one way or the other. It has the same results. It's an illusion of an hourly wage that makes things different. Working a salary, that's for some people, and that's perfectly fine. But at some point, they're going to put a cap on your earning potential and your time. And if time is important to you and you want to control the most precious resource you have in existence, You have to be able to control your time through self-employment or creating your own business. And that's really what you're doing is you're operating commission only until you build a residual income, until you build a book of business, until you build an agency, until you've built a real business. And then you're on your own salary. So I think it's all about mindset, but at the most granular level, what you said there is so powerful. They have to get their spouse, their significant other, whatever their people that are in their direct sphere of influence on them, and explain to them what they're trying to do. And if they really love and care about them, they'll help them get to that point, right?
Yeah, most definitely. I'm kind of fortunate, kind of coming from the background of, growing up around the business. My dad, commission only, independent, always kind of doing his own thing. I grew up around it. I kind of saw how it worked. I grew up, pretty fortunate. I feel like, grew up a nice neighborhood, nice home. My dad busted his butt, to do what he could to support our family. So, I knew how it would be going in, but then I also knew that, I knew I could do really well. It takes a lot of work. I saw how my dad worked and he was, very successful in the business. I knew I could do the same. It'd just be a matter of putting the time in to make it happen. And I saw firsthand that this is not an easy business.
Yeah.
But the good days definitely make up for the bad.
We got another question I'd love to tackle with you because I love this question. Aaron asked, what do you say if you contact a lead or referral on a Sunday? Now, I know Erin is setting her own appointments and working referrals right now, and this is the perfect question for her to ask. Sunday afternoon is the best time to set appointments for Monday. Proven time and time again in this industry. When you are dialing for yourself and you're trying to start the week off profitably and enjoy some time at the end of the week, Sunday between 4 and 8:30 with a break for dinner is a damn good time to dial your leads and set appointments. The other time, Aaron, that I think works really, really well is first thing Saturday morning or both, depending on your results or your schedule or your family obligations. But Saturday, first thing for about 2 hours, Sunday, last thing for about 2 hours. If you just have a good solid script, a good set of fresh leads like I know you have, and a will to make it work, you're going to set 6, 7, 8, 9 appointments on a Monday, and then you're off to the races from there. So Adam, what are your thoughts on contacting leads or referrals on a Sunday?
Why not? It's just another day of the week. I've worked leads on Sundays. I've gone out and door knocked on a Sunday. I think Sunday afternoons are really good. A lot of our clients, they may go to church on Sunday, but they'll get home by 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And in my experience, when I've door knocked leads on Sunday afternoons, I'm catching that person at home, and usually there's other relatives there. There are other family members that they go to church with that they don't live there. Maybe their kids are with them on Sunday, where usually that any other time of the week, they're hard to get a hold of. There's business to be written on Sundays. Well, like any other day of the week. And I think it's, again, so much of this business is just mindset. If you think people don't want to be bothered on Sundays, well, then they're not going to want to be bothered. But if you go out with that mindset of like what I just said, Sundays are great. People are home in the afternoon. A lot of times you're going to see other people as well as just the lead. Their kids will be there, everybody else. There's opportunity there. So much of this is just mindset. If you think it'll work on Sundays, it'll work. If you think it's not going to work, well, that's what you're going to get.
Yeah. I got one more tip on that too. When you're getting used to setting your own appointments, you're getting used to working direct mail, you're getting used to the ins and outs with that lead flow to your business. What I've always done is I'll start with a set of older leads, like not my brand new stuff I paid for on Friday, but stuff from like a week or 2 or 3 before. And I'll start with those. Low pressure. They say no, oh well. And as soon as I get one appointment off of that mix of my older stuff, then I immediately shift back into my newer stuff because I've got my confidence up. Kind of like how you wrote a piece of business on Wednesday or that Medicare sale, and that Medicare sale pushed you into writing more life business. So Aaron, I would recommend mixing in some of your older stuff, call them first, get into the rhythm of calling, set an appointment, and then shift right into your newer stuff which will naturally be easier to set because it's damn near 2 weeks old, if not newer sometimes.
Yeah, and I see Erin also mentioned that she had that feeling this week. Maybe some of the areas that she was working might not have been
Mhm.
the nice side of town, but you just kind of got to go in with the mindset of people know you're there for a reason. You're not out there trying to
Yeah.
cause problems, and if you don't feel safe, like I said,
Come
go
back
back
later.
later. Or the best time, if you're working a really bad area, the best time to work those leads is first thing in the morning. Your
Yeah.
9 a.m., everybody's still in bed. You're not going to have issues at 9 o'clock in the morning, or even the winter
No.
time. Winter time's great. Everybody's inside. Now it's going to be cold out. Nobody wants to be outside when it's cold out. So, you
Yeah.
know, like again, mindset. I've never really
Mhm.
thought too deep into it. I mean, I've walked up the houses with you know, five, gang members hanging around at the front door. Doesn't phase me.
One other
They
thing
know
I
I'm there
might
for a
might lead to
reason.
the Yeah, one other trick that might help in those situations is just if you feel like you're not quite comfortable, obviously apply common sense. Don't get yourself killed, but send us a text ahead of time. Hey, I'm going into a home. Can you call me in 15 minutes and say it's my manager checking in on me for the day? And no problem with that. We'll check in, make sure you're alive. They haven't been kidnapped yet, or send people out if you were. But don't be afraid to reach out and say, hey, give me a call in 10 minutes to make sure I'm still answering my phone. But if you're
Yep.
not feeling comfortable, don't do it. It's kind of that
Yeah, like I
balancing
said, if you
act.
don't feel comfortable, you don't got to get out of your car. Go back later.
Yeah, I've definitely done that. I pulled up. I'm like, nope, not today.
Not the
Let's try
best
again
time to
next
get
week.
out of the car. Yeah.
Nope. Any final thoughts before we wrap up today's Dynamic Friday?
uh, like I said, I think a lot of reasons why agents fail or get scared out of the business are the same reasons why other agents succeed. You just got to push through. You can't have that fear of failure. You can't focus on the negatives. You can't focus on the chargebacks. You can't focus on the bad rap the business gets, talking about poor persistency and everything else. Focus on the good stuff and focus. And, if anything, uh, communicate with people that that have been successful. Don't communicate with the people that are on the boards talking about how, oh, I got to work in the hood and final expense. I didn't know that. Like,
Yeah,
they
I
don't
got to
know
work for
the
free
first
now.
thing about the business then.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and focus.
deal with people that have been successful. They know what works. They know what doesn't. Me and you, Chris, I'd say we're probably two of the better out there.
Mhm.
But, deal with people that know what they're doing. That can help you get better. And you're not going to have any sort of fear or get spooked out of the business because you're going to deal with good people that know it's going to work as long as you
Yeah,
let it.
keep going. The only way you fail really in this is to give up. Stop trying.
Yeah.
And if you have stop trying, try again. Like it's a fresh month. It really is. It's a new opportunity. It's the best time of year to sell. All the excuses are there if you want them, or all the reasons to succeed are there if you choose to take them. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and share whatever method you're watching us on. And we'll see you again next week for another Dynamic Friday.